Whole sports all plays. Yeah. Whole sports all plays. Whole sports all plays. 365, we making a plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics living the same. All presentation, sports information. Hitting the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. Whole sports all plays.
What is going on, everybody? This is Mike Hughes, and you're listening to Skytown, everything Chicago Sky-related show. It is an honor to be able to say this is the last game of the WNBA 2022 regular season. Today is the day. Super excited about it. Sorry about the image. Everything's kind of really tight together. I'm moving some things around, but, today is a really exciting day. Today, 4 p.m. Central Time, if you aren't already aware, the Chicago Sky cap off the 2022 regular season right now with 25 wins and 10 losses after back-to-back losses. We're going to get into that today. We have interviews with Courtney Vandersloot, Emma Meesseman, Coach James Wade, and Rebekah Gardner, future Sixth Man of the Year. But that's a whole different conversation. It's evident that the last couple games have been very telling of a very proud season. Everybody's very proud of this season. Everybody's very excited to enter the playoffs, but the last couple games have not been pretty. We're going to go through it really quickly before we get into how we feel about going into the playoffs. We have an interview with Courtney Vandersloot, and she talks about the situation with Brittany Griner and headed to Phoenix right now and what those emotions are like. She played with her for 4 years in UMMC, which is a Russian league over there, and obviously in Russia. So there's a lot of emotions that go into this final game of the season and fighting for potentially the best record in the WNBA and home court advantage. So, I mean, there's a lot that goes into this. We have a lot to unpack. The last two games, though, let's start it off. In Chicago, the final game with Sue Bird against the Chicago Sky. Sue Bird's going to finish her WNBA regular season career tonight. Super excited about that. They're 21-13. They make the playoffs. So, her and Brianna Stewart are going to be able to have one last dance in the playoffs. And honestly, I wish them all the best. But this 21-13 team demolished the Chicago Sky 111-100. Now, we put up 100 points. That's perfectly fine. But we are one of the best defenses in the league, and we allowed 111 points. It was insane. Coach James Wade, I'm not even going to lie. I'm not even going to sit here in front and pretend like I just didn't have a question for him. I didn't want to talk to him. I did not want to talk to James Wade following that game. He was pissed. And honestly, I couldn't think of a question that wasn't going to upset him even more. So I just, wow. Like, I don't even know how to unpack that. All the players understand, it was a huge loss. They are so much better than that. And we do have an interview right here with Rebekah Gardner kind of speaking on to that. I believe this is Cheryl's question. I didn't get a chance to ask Rebekah a question, but Cheryl asked an amazing question kind of talking about what it means for this season and, if this is kind of just falling apart towards the end. And I think Rebekah answers this question perfectly. So here's a question from Rebekah Gardner with an amazing answer.
I wouldn't say it's a wake-up call. We know what we need to do. So Seattle played great tonight. I don't know what the percentages were, but they hit a lot of shots. So I wouldn't say it's a wake-up call, but I would say that this is a good game where we can tell that, going back-to-back is not going to be easy. We're going to have to go out there and work for it, and it's not going to be handed to us. So yeah, but we'll be fine. We're going to bounce back next game.
I love Rebekah and I love this team, but unfortunately, that last part about bouncing back, that was the consensus. That was the overall confidence of this team. They hadn't lost 2 games in a row all season, and they go into the next game against the Las Vegas Aces, and Kelsey Plum lit them on fire. Becky Hammon is potentially, obviously, I think my bias is Coach James Wade should win Coach of the Year. I think that's undoubtedly proven time and time again, but Becky Hammon is second to nobody. You know what I mean? Like, she is balling out right now. They are both fighting for the number one ranking of the season. So it's insane to me. But before we get into that Las Vegas game, I do want to get into this game really quick. Tina Charles had 14, 3, and 7 in 29 minutes. Williams had 21, 7, and 4 in 31. Brianna Stewart had 25, 5, and 9, almost had a double-double in 35 minutes. Lloyd, 18, 3, and 4 in 31. Sue Bird had 10, 8, and 0, almost had a double-double in 29, one of her best performances of the season so far. January had 2, 4, and 0 and 11. Prince had 2, 4, and 0 and 9. Magabero had 13, 1, and 3 and 16, and Talbot had 6, 2, and 1 and 9. From the Sky side of things, it just really wasn't their night. It just really wasn't. They all performed pretty well. Pretty much everybody outside of Rebekah and Julie were in double figures. That's the craziest part is, you put up 100 points, you should win the game. It was just a total defensive collapse. They had switches and rotations that they just weren't prepared for. They were allowing people to get by them. They were allowing people to take open shots. Like it wasn't Sky basketball. And I think that was one of the most frustrating parts is you understand what this team is capable of and what they're doing. And they kind of took their foot off the gas pedal in that kind of sense. And they really just let them get by them. But Candace Parker had 14, 5, and 7 and 28. Ka had 17, 3, and 4 and 33. Emma had 11, 6, and 4 and 32. Allie had 10, 3, and 3 and 26. Sloot had 28, 7, and 3 and 30. Sloot had one hell of a performance. And we do have an interview coming up with her. Azure had 12, 1, and 5 and 20. And Rebekah had 18, or not 18, pardon me, 8, 1, and 4 and 21. Julie had 0, 4, and 0 and 10. Dana Evans did not play. It's definitely a conversation. Neither did Lee, pardon me. Neither did Lee. And it's definitely a conversation, though, to wonder, last year going to the end of the season when a lot of people were injured and a lot of things started going wrong, completely wrong, right towards the end of the season, we had to fight for a playoff spot. Dana Evans was a big part of that. She was a big key to this Sky team. And even in the playoffs, she hit big shots. And I'm really curious to see if she's going to be added to this roster, I guess you should say. And obviously she's already a part of it, but she really hasn't been getting the minutes that she was at the beginning of this season. When Sloot was out when Allie was out, and with Rebekah being as dominant as she really hasn't been getting the minutes. But, with a lack of production from Allie, from an offensive standpoint, I do feel like Dana is going to see more minutes in the postseason if it comes down to it, because we know she's a knockdown shooter. She could be that, night in and night out player that we need her to be from an offensive standpoint. I think her defense just needs to be a little bit better. But one of my biggest things is trusting Allie. I want to trust Allie. I don't want to sit here and say that Allie should be benched or this, and that. I think one of the biggest things we should be talking about right now is trusting in her, that she's going to pop off in the the postseason, and really be that dominant individual that we know she is. It hasn't been her season, but I don't think she would admit this because she's one of the toughest individuals on this team next to Salute, who's rocking a black eye right now, got nailed right in the eye. I believe that was in the Seattle game, if I'm not mistaken. But, throughout it all, she really just did her thing. And one of the biggest things for me is really just looking at this team and really just looking at how hard they fight and how hard they want to be great. And I think that's one of the biggest things. I think people need to be talking about that more. People need to be talking about the overall fight and ability to watch this team grow and have each other's back. And I think right now having Allie's back needs to be one of the biggest things, is because, she's not shooting shots like she used to, but it's definitely a conversation to where we know when the going gets tough and when, all eyes are on her, she can knock down a three when we need her to knock down a three. But I'm really excited to see where this team is going to go moving forward. Tonight's game doesn't really mean much to me, but I do want the home court advantage if I'm the Chicago Sky. The Las Vegas Aces have been one hell of a juggernaut this season. So, I mean, you got to take what you can get. So you got to be able to have this as easy as you can. But following into the next game, and speaking of Las Vegas Aces, the Sky lose again to the Aces after losing to them in the Commissioner's Cup, 89-78. Right now, the Las Vegas Aces 25-10, the Sky 25-10. It's an unfortunate circumstance, man. It's an unfortunate circumstance. We're going to go through the Aces first. Stokes had 9, 1, and 7 and 29. Young had 22, 2, and 5 and 35. Wilson had 12, 2, and 6 and 33. Kelsey Plum, 25, 5 and 1 and 36. Gray had 6, 3 and 2 and 28. Williams had 12, 1 and 3 and 19. Rupert had 3, 3 and 5 and 17. And everybody else had zeros around the board. Again, they're not really using their bench whatsoever. They have a 6-7 man rotation at best. And that's the thing that frustrates me the most about when we play Vegas. Their top 5 starters are so dominant. They can drop 89 points with just 5 players. Like that's where it's different. There's going to be nights where Allie doesn't score more than 10 points. There's going to be nights where Sloot doesn't score more than 10 points, but they do other things. When it comes to the bench for the Las Vegas Aces, that's where the Chicago Sky, to me, need to capitalize with not only Dana Evans, not only Rebekah Gardner, not only Lee, not only Ruthie, not only Azure. Like, you need all of them to be coherent, and you need all of them to be able to understand, like, you need to run up the board, because that bench unit doesn't play much. And that's the problem. These girls are playing 30 plus minutes a game, outside of Williams and Rupert. Like, they are hooping for real, and they are here to stay. Like, I don't see that changing. I honestly see it shortening. I see them getting more minutes going into the playoffs. I think when you look at the Chicago Sky versus the Las Vegas Aces, and before we get into our interviews with Courtney Vandersloot and Emma Meesseman, I for my personal take, I think if I'm James Wade, I try to find a way to get my bench ignited. I try to have them in somewhat of a balance. I think not to experiment with things, but I think with the second unit, there's a lot of different ways we could go about it. And I mean this in the best way possible. I don't want this to sound like I think she deserves to be on the bench. I don't make this to sound like I think she deserves to be a part of the second unit. I think there needs to be a balance. And one of my biggest things is, let's say, here's how I'm looking at it. You look at the starting five. Obviously, it's Sloot, Allie, Ka, Candace, and Emma. Whichever one you want to put at center, it doesn't really matter. But I think if you want to run it a different way, you could put Dana in the starting five. I think you could put Dana Evans in the starting five. And the reason I say that is because Allie Quigley, Rebekah Gardner, and Azure Stevens coming off the bench, that would ignite something. That leaves less pressure on Allie. That brings Azure some help. And it makes Rebekah's job a lot easier because you have another veteran on the floor with you with that second unit, aside from just Azure. I think that's, to me, and obviously you still have Julie. So it'd be Julie, Allie, Rebekah. You could do a 3-guard thing, and then Azure and whoever else. But it really, to me, would stretch out the offense. I think for the second unit. I think right now the second unit is Azure, and that's really it from an offensive standpoint. Rebekah does her thing, but Rebekah is a defensive first player, and we understand she has an offensive game as well, but she's going to be that Marcus Smart type player. Always. She's going to lock down anybody. She's going to understand where the ball is going, what they're running, and the system that they're running. She's going to understand that, and she knows where she needs to be. And if you add Allie to that, you add a great shooter to that, I feel like, whether you're going up against the Vegas Aces starters or whether you're going against their second unit, Allie's going to succeed there. And Dana might even flourish with the starters, because she flourished with the starters last year. With the second unit, I haven't seen her really go back to who she was in the finals, who she was, against Connecticut in the conference finals. So I think really that's the way I would approach it. I think, I do not have the balls to walk up to James Wade and ask him if he thinks that would be a good idea. Because again, it's a conversation of, you don't do that to Allie Quigley. You don't put her on the bench. You don't put her on the second unit. But again, I don't think she would take it as that way. I don't, because James Wade has preached this all season. It doesn't matter, especially with Azure. It does not matter if you're a second unit, if you're a first unit. The end of the day, everybody's job is to win, and nobody thinks that they have a specific role. Everybody's role is to win and play winning basketball. So when I look at it like that, I have this understanding of, I think it could work. I don't think anybody's, ego would get taken the wrong way. I don't think it would rub anybody the wrong way. I don't think it would mess up chemistry. I think, if anything, it would build confidence in not only Dana, but it would also give Allie a breather. I truly do, because obviously she came into this season injured. I think she's been kind of trying to catch her breath all season, and she's been productive. She's been great. But I think with this second unit, she would be able to get in a lot more shots, find her rhythm, and be able to really start knocking down shots. But we have an interview really quickly with Emma Meesseman. This one's a little bit lighter, just kind of talking about, the beginning of her Chicago Sky career, how her first season went. We have one game left of the WNBA regular season, and we kind of just recap that with her and ask her what it's been like being a part of the Sky's organization. So this is...
Hey, Emma, when you look at this team, obviously every single game so far throughout this season, between the matchups and the Commissioner's Cup and the 2 other games you played against them, they're tough-fought battles. And going into the playoffs, this is one of those teams outside of the Sky themselves are going to be a very difficult team to handle for the majority of the league. When you look at this team potentially having to face them in the playoffs at some point, what do you think you guys have to do differently to really get their number?
Be consistent 40 minutes. We have to be locked in defense, know their tendencies. That was kind of one of the keys. And also be aggressive in offense. We know that we have a lot of IQ, we have a lot of talent in this team, and when we are on the same page and we know what we want, we're good. We've proven it in the past against the Aces, like first game. I think we'll find solutions. We'll talk about this game, what we have to do better. We just have to put everything together, not only defense, not only offense, just everything together.
And then obviously there's a lot more basketball to be played until the end of the season is officially over. But for your first season about to come to an end for the regular season as a member of the Chicago Sky, how can you recap your first season playing here?
It was interesting. I think it was a huge evolution. Obviously, people coming in late. For once, I wasn't in training camp, but I was together with Dana, the only one, and Sloot and Ali. But by the time that the team was complete, I still had to get used to everything, as did the team. And I think some of that evolution is still happening. So it's good. You know, we know that we can do better. We know that what we have to work on. So we know that we're going to be better in the playoffs.
Thanks, Emma.
Welcome.
And that's, to me, it's one of those conversations of remaining consistent, remaining, passionate to what you're buying into. And Emma hit it on the head, kind of just talking about, just continuing to do what you're doing until it doesn't work anymore. And they're 25-10 right now. Everything's still working. They are still the defending champs. And until anybody proves that, it's a conversation of, when is this all going to come together? And it's, let's not sit here and act like everything's falling apart. We don't need to change anything. Like that's what it is. My only conversation, like I said earlier, about Allie, about her potentially going to the bench and starting Dana, just to give Allie more reps. I think, when you have Candace, Court, and everybody else, Emma, everybody in that starting five is capable of dropping 20 plus a night. And I think Allie just doesn't get the shots that she deserves. And that's what comes with the territory of being a part of a great team. You look at the Golden State Warriors, Draymond Green is great. I'm not comparing Allie Quigley to Draymond Green whatsoever. But what I'm saying is when you have Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, there's a lot of guys in that starting lineup that you look at and you're like, damn, somebody's touches are going to get taken away from this. And unfortunately, because Allie isn't the point guard of this team and Candace and Kai and Emma are all stars, you're having this conversation of, we're looking at it from what it is. And Allie's getting, the short end of the stick when it comes to shots a game. And I think that's what you need to take into consideration. Coming onto that second unit, you look at Allie Quigley and you're going to say, damn, like she's going to get the majority of the shots. Azure is going to get the second amount of shots. And we know what Azure can do, whether it be starting or bench. She is amazing. And then you look at Rebekah, who just loves defense and she can score when she needs to. And Julie Allman is one of those individuals. Aliman, pardon me. Julie Aliman is one of those individuals who can pass the rock to Allie, who Allie doesn't need to be the point guard of that second unit, and you can run that whichever way you want. So I think there's a lot of different ways we can go about this. I think obviously I would still have Allie starting every single night until it became an issue. But if you're facing someone like the Las Vegas Aces, I would definitely try to have a conversation and see where Dana Evans is at. Now, obviously, James Wade, one of the most intelligent individuals in all of the WNBA, one of the best coaches as well. So he sees them night in and night out. I only see them at practices and I only see them at media practices, not every practice. And I only see them during games. So he has a far better understanding of where Dana's at and where she could thrive in that role or not than I do. So it's just me spitballing on what I would try to do with the Aces. I'm not saying, I have a better understanding of anything. He sees them night in and night out. So he has the best, idea of what would work and what wouldn't. But I would definitely try something. I think, you caught them off guard on one game this season. We lost we played them 3 times. We were 1 for 3. Like that's I don't know. I just think there's a lot to be done. And I think honestly, it's as cocky as this sounds. I know you got to take everybody seriously, but the only ones I'm taking as being legitimate threats to take down the Sky this year are the Las Vegas Aces. And that's my biggest concern. But we do have an interview with Courtney Vandersloot, who did play 4 years in the UMMC, which is in Russia, with Brittany Griner, finishing off the regular season in Phoenix. We kind of have a conversation with her about, you know, what that emotion is like, and then, you know, just everything else that went into this season and moving forward. She also has a shiner on her. I think it looks badass. I think someone needs to make a painting of it. It's super dope. She holds it well. She holds it well. Like when I have a black eye, I look awful, but she makes it look good. So this is our interview with Courtney Vandersloot. Sloot's always a great person, always a great time. The one thing I will say about this video is I didn't get the video recording off of their website from the Sky that they usually provide for me. So this is off my phone. So if the quality doesn't look great, I truly apologize.
We'll start with Mike first. Mike, please unmute.
Hey, Court. You know, finishing the season the way you have, playing against Phoenix, it's a bittersweet moment, especially with everything going on with BG right now. And you even posted on your Instagram how, you know, in UMMC, it's been a great 4 years playing alongside with her. Can you kind of just speak on what this season has been like with all the emotions of everything going on with BG?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's difficult. You know, you just feel this missing piece. And, you know, obviously it was really close to home because I played with her for so long. And I was there, and I just can't imagine, you know, how we feel. And it's probably much worse here in Phoenix. I just feel for them and BG, and it's like I said, it's just this big, huge missing piece to our league. She's so important, not only to this league, but to our team and the community. And so, you know, we're just, you know, trying to stay positive, keep praying that BG will come home soon.
And then when you look at a team like Las Vegas going into the playoffs, obviously, you know, when you look at a season like last year, you have to take everybody seriously because, you know, the Sky were a team that not everybody was counting to be the favorite going into it. But when you look at a team like Las Vegas, you know, really being that juggernaut next to the Sky right now of kind of the fan favorites of winning the championship, what do you guys think you need to do differently to really just have their game plan a little bit more adjusted?
You know, I think every game has been a little bit of a different concern, I guess I would say, with them. You know, they're obviously, they're talented and they have a lot of weapons. You know, in the Commissioner's Cup, we couldn't guard them. And I think last game we did a better job of guarding. We couldn't score. So I think the biggest thing is with us is we got to just make sure we're playing our game. We're competing defensively, but, you know, we're offense is flowing. We're taking care of the ball. We're executing. You know, I don't think they've seen our best yet. And of course, you know, you can credit them to that. But, you know, playoffs is a whole nother world. It's a series is a whole nother thing. So we're confident that, you know, we can compete and that we'll have it figured out.
Thanks, Salute. I appreciate it. That's one of those things that I just feel like, you know, and that's what the series have been so far. It's super frustrating to even have this conversation with you guys because I don't know how to identify the Las Vegas Aces. I feel like every game, whether it be the first game in Wintrust Arena, this past game, or even in the Commissioner's Cup, you're having this conversation of, you know, what does this team look like? What is their identity? But every game, it could be Asia, it could be Kelsey, it could be whoever, they're going off and they're popping off on all cylinders. And it reminds me of us. You know, there's nights where Sloot is going to drop 20 plus points. You have Ka, who's dropping damn near 30 every other night. You have Candace, who gets a triple double. You have Allie, who's shooting the lights out. You have Emma, who's rebounding the ball great and gets a double double. Like, you don't know any single night, any given night, who's going to pop off. You know, Rebekah, Gardner, Azure Stevens, like they are all doing their thing and doing their part. And that's one of the things that frustrate me the most is, you know, you can't really identify where everybody's going to be and what everybody's going to do. And I don't even think we got into the Sky side of things. Candace Parker had 15, 6, and 12 for a double-double in 34 minutes. Emma Meesseman, 14, 1, and 7 in 29. Ka had 28, 3, and 4 in 31. I believe that's her career high. She's hit her career high like 3 different times this year. I'm waiting for her to get that 30 burger. Allie had 4, 3, and 2 and 22. Sloot had 6, 6, and 3 and 28. Azure had 6, 0, and 1 and 17. Rebekah had 5, 1, and 5 and 26. Julie had 0, 3, and 1 and 9. Dana Evans played 4 minutes, had zeros around the board, and Ruthie played 1 minute and had zeros around the board. Lee did not play. But that's my thing is when you look at Vegas and you look at the way it goes, Allie 4, 3, and 2 and 22. And, Dana has zeros across the board, only plays 4 minutes. I think if you put Allie on that bench squad and every single game so far, and I don't want to single out Allie, I just think this is a perfect role. You can't put Sloot on the bench because she's your starting point guard. But I think what Allie would bring is kind of, we're going to make a Chicago comparison. We're going to go around town. We're going to go to the Madhouse. We're going to go to there. We're going to go to the United Center. I don't know how else to talk about this. It's Alex Caruso is how I look at Allie Quigley. I think when I look at her, she's an amazing scorer. She's an amazing guard. She does her job. But if she can lead the second unit the way that Alex Caruso does, it could make everybody better. And that's not me saying that we have to do that every single series. I think, until it's warranted, you don't have to do it. But Dana Evans being in the starting lineup with Sloot, Candace, Emma, and Ka, that's, to me, that would work. And then the second unit is Azrae and Allie and Julie and Ruthie. That's what you need to do, at least in my opinion, to what would bring this team success. I want Allie to be a starter. I want her to shoot the lights out. But as of right now, it's just not happening. So I feel like this gives her more time to shine. This gives her more offensive plays driven and focused around her to really just shoot the lights out. I think that's really what you need to see right now, because she's not getting the amount of looks that she normally does. And that's understandable. You have 3 players who are first team All-NBA. We're looking at that right now. And if nobody heard about that, I've been preaching about it all day long. Shout out to the Chicago Sky on just continuing to do their thing. First team All-NBA, All-WNBA came out today, or last night rather. It's a great list. We have Ka, Candace, Emma, and Court. That's your starting 4 of 5. Allie obviously isn't there, but the reason Allie probably isn't there is 1, she wasn't healthy to begin this season, and 2, there's so many mouths to feed, and Allie took that sacrifice of not getting the amount of shots that she would normally get. 3-4 years ago, her and Sloot would get all the shots. Elena Deladon and everybody else, that was really the only focus. They were the juggernaut. So I think right now, giving Allie more time and more control over the offense and over the ball, I think would benefit her. And Dana is one of those individuals who doesn't really need the ball. So I think it's really exciting. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I truly do believe that the Sky are going to be all right. I think whatever James Wade comes up with, I trust him. I trust him 110%. And if he's, by some chance, if he's listening to this, he might call me an idiot for thinking Allie should go on the bench for Dana, but it has nothing to do with Allie not being productive. It has nothing to do with Allie being a liability, because that's not what she is. I think the reality of the situation is Allie can flourish more and spread out the ball a lot better than Dana can. And Dana playing with the starters can help her and take eyes off her when she is playing 4 minutes, of dead ball time. That's just truly how I look at it. And that's really how I think we need to take this mindset moving forward. But we have one last game coming up right now. We got some NFL games going on with the Raiders versus the Vikings. And then after that, we have at 4 p.m. Central Time, the Chicago Sky finished this regular season against Diana Taurasi, Skylar Diggins-Smith, and the Phoenix Mercury. Super excited about it. They're going to miss the playoffs, so that's insane. I think tonight's their last chance to potentially sneak in, and if they lose tonight, then they're out. So, this is win or go home for them, and the Sky right now is kind of just trying to fight back and find out who they are again. They're trying to find that identity right before the playoffs start. You don't want to go into the playoffs, on a 3-game losing streak. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to have post-game press conferences with that. We're going to have interviews, and we're going to recap the 2022 season either later tonight or tomorrow morning. But with that being said, thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys always for being here. Follow WNBA Mike on TikTok. We create content and post interviews all day long, far more than just WNBA. We do NFL, MLB, NBA, everything Chicago sports related. So definitely check that out. Follow me on all social media platforms if you haven't already. With that being said, thank you guys for listening. This is Mike Hughes from Mike on the Mic and Skytown, and all sports, all plays brought to you by Network, followed by the WNBA. I'm out. Peace.
Whole sports, all plays. Whole sports, all plays. Whole sports, all plays. 365, we making up plays. We talking the game, get you to the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. Hitting the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports all plays.